You write and write and write, and seemingly you just look at your stuff and you're like, I'm not getting any better. I'm going to give you 5 reasons today why you may not be getting any better. Maybe you're guilty of one of these. So if you are, you can kind of adapt and change that and hopefully start moving your writing in the direction that you want to move it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking if you find value. Subscribe if you haven't done that. I really do appreciate it. There's some links below. Some of those might be helpful to you. Be sure to check those out. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in. If you've been screenwriting or storytelling at all for any length of time, you probably on some level want to get better. You want the next story you write and the story after that and the story after that, each one to be progressively better. But if you start looking at your stuff and you're going, am I really getting any better? Is this really improving? It doesn't really seem like I'm improving. I'm trying. Nobody's wanting to read my stuff. I send out queries and all kinds of stuff and nobody's asking for things. Is it just me, or am I just not getting any better? So let's talk about 5 reasons why you may not be getting any better. And if you're doing one of these, you can remedy by just not doing it or trying to be a little more proactive in how you are getting better. Number 1, you watch movies and TV shows, but you don't study them. And there is a difference, okay? If you sit down to watch a show, you're just watching for entertainment. I'm watching to check out. I'm watching to be involved in this world, or I really like these characters and I just want to see what's going on. And that's perfectly fine. But you also have to spend some time studying shows and movies that you want to write. So if you want to write things like rom-coms, like you just really love rom-coms, you want to write them, okay, you can't just watch them for entertainment. You've got to watch them and study them. What is working? What is not working? Try to find scripts for movies or TV shows that you like. Just try to find them, read them. Like, what's going on? How are they formatting things? Or how are they dealing with this? How do they treat that? How do they deal with this particular surprise? Because I want to do something kind of similar to that. Like, what are other people doing that you are not doing? So you can start looking and seeing what's happening over here and what am I not doing? That's studying. Another way of studying is where you sit down and take a film and like, how many scenes is it? How many scenes with the main character? How many scenes with supporting characters or with the villain? Where do those happen? So you can start to understand how movies are put together by studying them, by looking at them, by breaking them apart. And if you're just watching them thinking that the watching is the studying, that's not it. Like, if you're not sitting down in front of a screen with pad and paper or your computer to like take notes or keep track of things, like, you're not studying it. You're just watching it. So if you want to get better and you feel like I'm just not getting better, okay, stop only watching things, study them. Now, that doesn't mean study them only either, right? I mean, when I'm doing stuff, if there's something new that I'm trying to write that I haven't really written before, I'm going to study something. I put on a different hat. It's like, okay, I wear this hat when I'm just wanting to be entertained, but I wear this hat when I'm trying to study and trying to pull it apart. So you can kind of start to compartmentalize a little bit like that, and that might actually help you. So study films, TV shows that you want to write. Don't just watch them. Second, and I kind of alluded to this in the first one, is you are not reading or studying screenplays. I mean, if you want to be a screenwriter, you've got to study screenplays. And I'm not talking about the transcribed things that you find on IMDb. I'm talking about finding good screenplays, the whole script as it actually is. And there's 2 different kinds of scripts. There's shooting scripts and there's spec scripts. I did a video about that. I'll link it up here. And you can learn a lot from reading a script. But when you look at a script, can you even tell if it's a shooting script or a spec script? And if you can't, you haven't looked at enough scripts. You need to know what are the differences between a spec script and a shooting script, and what are some things you can learn from them. A spec script is something that is before production. Shooting script is what they're using in production. Some changes happen in between there. So what are some things that are happening? What are things that are included in one and not the other? I mean, if you're trying to sell something and you're formatting it like a shooting script and not a spec script, and it keeps getting rejected, well, that may be why. You just may not understand that it's looking more like one than the other. So you need to be reading, you need to be studying screenplays. Gotta do it. There are plenty of places online where you can find scripts regularly before award season. All the screenplays that are up for awards kind of get released sort of online, so you can download those. So you just kind of want to be looking and watching. Try to find some scripts online, actual scripts, not the transcribed things. Those are not good. You want an actual script. A third reason why you may not be getting any better is because you don't understand the basics. You know, another way to say this is you don't know what you don't know. Do you know what structure is? Do you know what story structure is? Do you know what the required pieces are of story structure? Do you know what a character arc is? Do you know what a scene is? Okay, hint, a scene is not what's under a scene heading. Call those slug lines because a scene is broader than what's just included under a scene heading or a slug line. You have to think broader. You've got to understand what the basics are. What are the fundamental tools to help you? And there are a lot of ways to do that. Yes, there's books, there's videos online that you can find, but you can also take classes, you can do other things. I just want to let you all know I've got a new class. It's live, it's linked below. It's called the Screenwriting Fast Track. It essentially covers the basics, okay? Some people want to just learn on their own and figure it out and take the 5 years or whatever to learn that. That's totally cool if you want to do that. If you want to just skip to the front of the line and know what all the basics are, so then when you, whether you're going to write a horror or action or TV or whatever it is, you understand what a character arc is, you know what scenes are, you know what characters and how to move them and types of characters and all that. If you're interested in that, check that link below. That might be of help to you. But whether you take my class or not, you've got to learn the basics. And if you don't know what the basics are, you've got to study them. You've got to know what they are, because you don't really want to be thinking about writing when you're writing. If you're writing and you're constantly thinking about how do I format that, or what's the right way to do this, or should I do it this way or this way? Okay, you don't know the basics yet. Okay, so you got to learn the basics, because when you sit down to write, you just want to be able to tell the story. So if you're trying to think about how to do it while you're doing it, that may be a hint that you don't know enough about the basics. So that's not a bad thing. Just go back and learn the basics. And then once you know them, now you're going to be able to apply them. You're going to be able to write so much better, so much faster. So please be sure to learn the basics. The fourth reason you may not be getting any better is you might be erratic in your dedication. That doesn't mean you're not dedicated. It means you kind of go in fits and starts. Like, I'm really dedicated and really doing things, and now I'm really not. And now I am, and now I'm not. The hard part with this is it's like exercise, right? Those of you that have tried to work out and do things, you exercise, and when you start exercising, you're sore and you hurt and you do things, but the more you do it, the better you get and the more in shape you get. But if you lay off for a week or two and then try to go back to it, now you're sore again. Now it hurts. It's a little harder to get back into it, and then you finally get back into it and you kind of get out of place. And that's what happens with writing. Writing is a craft that you have to practice, that you have to work at. And if you're not doing it, if you're not exercising those muscles, it's going to make you sore. It's going to make it harder for you to get at the level you want to get to, because what you're doing is you're actually progressing and then you stop. Okay, so now you're regressing, and then when you start again, okay, I only get up to here, but now, okay, I got a little better, but then I stop, and then I get a little, it's this constant up and down, and you want to do that. So you might just be a little erratic in your commitment. The thing is, if you really want to get good at writing, you have to make it a priority. You have to prioritize learning the craft, studying the craft, practicing the craft, doing the craft. You have to do all those things. It's got to be a priority. And if you start saying, well, I just don't have the time, okay, my candid response is, well, you may not really want to do it. You have to make it a priority. It's got to be a consistent priority in your life if you want to get better. Now, can you just do it for fun and do it some and not, and do it some and not, and maybe you write something and maybe it sells and all that because your life is crazy? That's totally fine. Don't think that what I'm disparaging, because I'm not. What I'm saying is, if you really want to get better, you've got to make the commitment. It's got to be a regular thing. You've got to prioritize it. And if you're just saying yeah, I just don't have time to write today, or I just don't feel like writing today, or it's just not coming to me. Okay, that's not a good enough reason. You are not as committed as you need to be. You've got to work on the craft all the time. Keep exercising those muscles. If you're doing that, you are going to start to see some improvement and you are going to get better. Now, before I give you the last one, you've probably in your own writing life have noticed things that have helped you get better. So what are some of those things? What are things that have helped you get better as a writer? Drop those in the comments below. Let other people kind of use those and feed on those, and maybe that might help somebody else. So we want to be a community that's helping each other. So if there's something that's helped you, drop it in the comments below, and maybe that will help somebody else also improve. Okay, number 5, and this one might actually step on your toes a little bit, and I'm sorry, but I'm doing it out of love for you because I care. You may not be getting better if you are not a student of the industry. Now, what I mean is, do you know what things are selling? Do you know what deals are being made? Do you know what is happening in the industry? Do you read the trades? Do you keep up on news? Do you keep up on things happening? Now, that doesn't mean you have to read them all the day and spend hours every day reading them, but a little bit of time each week, yeah, you should be aware of things. What that does is that helps you start to know that what you're writing is actually commercially viable. One of the things that happens with new writers is they're trying to do things. They're trying to write this like really great screenplay. You know, if I win this contest, it's going to be great. And you might write a great screenplay, okay? And it might be super well written. It may be awesome, okay? And it wins every contest it gets into. Nobody buys it because it's not producible. There are differences between what's a good screenplay and what's a producible screenplay. For example, a question to think about is there a role, specifically your main character, supporting characters, that a Hollywood star would want to play? I mean, would Julia Roberts want to be in it, or Brad Pitt, or Chiwetel Ejiofor? I mean, would any of them want to be the lead character in your movie? And if not, it's not producible. Okay, so it might be a great story. Okay, but if the characters aren't interesting, if they're just kind of like going along, yeah, the story is interesting, but the characters are not, people aren't going to want to play them. So you have to start thinking about what are roles that stars are playing? What are things that people want to be a part of? What are premises for movies or TV shows that people are picking up, that people are latching onto, that are getting made? Like, you have to start thinking about all those questions. And if you're not a student of the industry, you're not going to be aware of those questions. You're not going to be thinking about the right things. And it takes a long time to write a script. And if you're wanting to ultimately sell what you're writing, why are you writing something that's just not going to be producible? And if you're a student of the industry, you start thinking more like industry people think. You start realizing, hey, this is a business. People want to make money. People want to, do all these great things. So how can I help them do that? If you can start thinking and shifting your mind that way, that's going to start to make you a better writer. That doesn't mean it's going to make your stories better per se, but what it does mean is people are going to start paying attention to your stories a lot more, because now they realize, hey, this person is in tune with kind of what's going on. This also doesn't mean you start going and chasing things like, oh, people are all now buying this thing, so I need to write that. Okay, it's going to take you 3 or 4 months to write that, and by the time you write it, that trend's going to be past. So you can't be like, ooh, I'm only going to write what they're selling. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you start to be aware and start to think about the questions that industry people are asking just by being a student of the industry. And you're going to start picking up on those nuggets and those little tidbits, and that's going to help you start to become a better writer. One last little thing with being a student of the industry is when you write something, there's 2 questions that you can really ask yourself. Is this something I can sell, or is this something I want to make myself? So just because you write a really great story that wins lots of contests that isn't producible, that doesn't get made, doesn't mean you can't go and make that thing. It doesn't mean you can't go and do that thing. Okay, so now I know some of you might be like, ooh, I kind of want to do that. I want to write and direct my own stuff. Then think about, what are the things that I want to write that I can also make myself? Yeah, you still want to be aware of those other things, because it would be great to attract a top star to be in your film, or, a top producer to kind of help you navigate some of that. Yes, absolutely. But that doesn't mean you only have to do stuff that the industry is doing, but you do need to be aware of the questions they're asking. So think about those 2 things that might actually help you, not just what's a story I want to tell. Okay, don't just think about that. I want to tell a great story, and you should want to tell a great story. But don't just think about that question. Think about what's something I could sell, and what's something that I want to go make myself. And if you're committed to one of those 2 things, okay, now you're probably going to be doing things a lot better, and that's going to help you be better down the road. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it has, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell, all that. I really do appreciate it. If you found value, be sure to hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching. When you go to tell a story that matters. See you later.